Google Meet has 8 awesome new features that you can begin using in your classroom. In this video, we're going to be reviewing all of those new features. We're going to be talking about background blur, moderator controls, breakout rooms, polling, Q&A, and more. Super awesome updates. I'm excited to share about them and give you my thoughts on how you could use these in your classroom. Now, before we begin talking about these features, a couple of quick important points. Number one, you must have a G Suite for Education account to use the majority of these features. You will not see them if you're using a personal Gmail account, okay? So G Suite for Education, if your school provides you with a Google account, you should be good to go. Secondly, there are some features that do require a subscription to the paid G Suite for Education Enterprise, okay? Now, we'll talk more about that later in the video. Is it worth it? How much does it cost? And what features are tied to it? But don't worry, there's a lot of really good stuff that you're going to get through your free G Suite for Education account that you already have. All right, those are the quick notes. Let's get into the first of these features. Let's talk about moderator controls. Teachers need the ability to manage and control their virtual sessions, and that is a lot easier with the new moderator controls. Now, I am currently in a Google Meet session. I'm going to look in the bottom left corner, and this is where you'll see the little shield icon. These are your host controls. Now, first of all, I need to quickly explain host. The host, and there can only be one, the host is the person that created the Meet link. Now, you can create that link through Google Classroom, Google Calendar, or directly through the Google Meet website. Doesn't matter. The person who creates the link is the only person who will receive access to these moderator host controls. Now, let's take a look at them. You now have the ability to turn off the chat. This is a great option. If chat is too much for your students, if they're being distracted, you can disable it. Now, one of the cool things about the chat is that even when it is disabled, the host can still send messages to participants. So you can still use the chat to share links and post information to your students. They just won't be able to reply to you. Secondly, you can turn off screen sharing, and if you've ever been interrupted in the middle of a lesson by a kid who clicks the share screen button, you know how frustrating that is. You can disable that feature now as well. Now, you can turn these features on and off throughout your session. They're not like permanent. So turn chat off when you're teaching, turn it back on when you want them to respond. That would work great. The third thing you'll see here is quick access, and this just makes it easier for invited guests to join your meeting. It's super annoying to have to sit there and click the allow button as people are requesting access to your meeting. If you have invited someone to the meeting, then they don't have to request access. So Google Meet knows who your students are. If you use the Google Meet link through Classroom, your students will automatically be allowed to join. Other students who are not in your class will not automatically be allowed into the room. They have to request access, and you would have to allow them in. If things are going well, if the right students are showing up in your class, then I would leave quick access enabled. If you want students to request access one at a time, then you can turn quick access off, and they'll have to request permission before they can join. Quick access does not impact users outside of your domain. So if you're doing like parent-teacher conferences and parents are joining with Gmail accounts or people are joining from other school districts, they will always have to request access. They will never be allowed in without your permission. So that's a look at the first of these 8 new features, the improved moderator controls. All right, let's talk about background blur. Now, when you start a meeting or join a meeting created by someone else, you're going to get to that typical splash screen where it just lets you check your camera, make sure everything's working. You'll now see a new icon in the bottom left corner that will enable background blur. And you can see it works really well, kind of hides 90% of my background. There's no additional controls for this. It just does what it does. You can see as I move around in the camera, it does a nice job of keeping me in the frame. Now, this is the only feature that's available currently. We do know that background replacement is coming. That was announced this past June. You'll see that pop up sometime in the future where you'll be able to actually post your own background photo. Now, after you join the meeting, you can also adjust your background blur. If you go down to the snowman menu at the bottom of your screen, under more options, you'll see background blur listed there as well. So when you join the meeting or during the meeting, you can turn it on and off at any time. All right, feature number 3 is a new hand raising option. Now, I'm logged in as both a student and a teacher. Let's take a look at the student perspective first. When you log into Google Meet, you will now see at the bottom of the screen on the toolbar a new raise hand option. When I click that as a student, that indicates to the teacher that I have a question or I'm agreeing with a question. Now, let me take a look at the teacher view. The teacher will see a little hand icon on the student's name. So if you're using the tiled view that you can now use with Google Meet, every student with a hand raise will have that little icon on it. It also does briefly flash the student's name to indicate that they've raised a hand. Furthermore, if you look at the participant list, so up here in the top left corner, I'm going to look at the list of people in the call. You'll now see a new filter that indicates or displays all of the individuals who have raised their hand, which is nice. You have the ability to lower all those hands as well. So if you're asking multiple verbal questions, they can respond by raising their hand. It's not bad. I've been using the Nod Chrome extension for a long time, and I really like Nod. If you're not familiar with it, I have a video I'll put in the comments. It gives you a thumbs up, thumbs down, a bunch of reaction emoji icons, and it's really nice. It's a really easy way for teachers to see what's going on in the class. So comparing Nod to this feature here, I have to give the edge to Nod. I'm probably going to continue using that until this feature is a little more refined. Increase the creativity of your virtual meetings by using Jamboard. Update number 4 brings Jamboard integration directly to Google Meet. If you haven't used Jamboard, this is a great opportunity to get started. Jamboard is a collaborative whiteboarding app. You can sketch, doodle, draw, take notes, jot down ideas. It's a great tool. Let's take a look at this. Really easy. We're going to go down to the Google Meet toolbar, bottom right corner, click on the snowman, and this is where we will see whiteboard. Now we'll open that, and you have the ability to either start from scratch or to open an existing Jam file. Now if you're a teacher who likes to plan in advance, you can prep your activity and then post it to your meeting when you're ready. Let's go ahead and just create a new Jam file. Now this really simplifies the process because the first thing that's going to happen is that Google will check to make sure that all the participants of the meeting have access to the file. So right here we can see that it's saying, hey, do you want these 6 students to have access? I do. I'm going to give them editing access and click send. That will actually post the link to the Jam file in the chat. So Google is automatically going to create the file, share the file, and give everyone in the meeting a link to the file. Now this works really, really well for internal attendees. So if your students are from your domain, if you're working with people from within your domain, it works great. If you're working with external users, you do typically need to manually share this. So just something to keep in mind. Now here's my Jam file. I've got that all ready to go. This is a whiteboarding tool, so I can go in here and sketch and draw. I can say hello. This is obviously a lot more fun if you have a touchscreen device. If you have a stylus like this, it's also really great. But it's a nice way to increase the creativity and collaboration of your virtual meetings. Now, Jamboard does work inside of Breakout Rooms. We're going to talk about Breakout Rooms in just a minute. So we'll look at that. But first, we need to talk a little bit about how you can upgrade to the Enterprise Edition of Google Meet. All right, we're halfway done. We've looked at 4 features of Google Meet. We have 4 more left, but first we need to talk about the difference between the free version of G Suite for Education and the new paid Enterprise Edition. The next 4 tools that I'd like to review with you are only available if your district has upgraded to G Suite for Education Enterprise. Now, before you freak out and think, oh, my district will never upgrade, it's actually a very, very good value. Let me explain the details. Now, we're going to be talking about polling, Q&A, breakout rooms, attendance reports. Those are all tied to the Enterprise version. The Enterprise edition of G Suite is a cost of $48 per user per year. But wait a minute, you do not have to purchase a license for all of the users in your domain. You can decide to purchase a license for only those that need it. So if you have 10, 15, 20 teachers who are doing remote instruction, you can purchase a license for just them. You don't have to purchase them for your students. That means it's a pretty good value. Now, in addition to all of the Google Meet features that I just mentioned, you get all the things on the screen as well, a bunch of other bonus features tied to the enterprise version of Google Meet. Now, just for comparison, Zoom for Education is a cost of $1,800 for 20 users. It really just breaks down to $90 per host. So you got $48 for Meet, $90 for Zoom. Ultimately, if your school is going to be doing remote instruction, you're going to need to purchase a paid video conferencing tool. You are going to have to decide if you want Zoom, Google Meet, or something else. Let's take a look at these last 4 features of Google Meet to help you make that decision. I'm excited to introduce you to the next 3 new features of Google Meet. Let's start with Breakout Rooms. Now, Breakout Rooms have been a hot request for a very long time. I'm excited that they are here, and even better, it works really well. Google really did a nice job with the design of Breakout Rooms. It works technically very well. It's easy to set up. It's just great. Let's take a look. First, let's look at setting them up from a teacher's perspective. So I'm signed in as the teacher, that's the host of this meeting, and the first thing you'll notice is a new icon up at the top of your screen. This is the new Activities tab. And that's where you'll find access to these next 3 features: Breakout Rooms, Polls, and Q&A. Let's go ahead and set up some Breakout Rooms. The first thing you'll do is decide how many rooms that you want. You can just toggle that up and down as necessary. That will automatically shuffle your students into a random room assignment. You can always reshuffle them to get a new mix. And if it's very important that Eustace and Polly are never in the same place together, you can just drag a student from one room into another. So maybe we'll move Edmund up here and put him with Eustace. Whenever you're ready to go, you're going to click Open Room, and the students will be invited to join the breakout room that's assigned to them. Now, I'm the teacher, so I'm going to remain temporarily in the main room. I can join any of the breakout rooms later on if I want. Let's take a look at the student perspective and see how they enter their rooms. So here I am in a student account. You can see that we've been invited to join breakout number 2. I'll click the join button. So we can see Eustace and Edmund are now in breakout room number 2, and they, can talk to each other, chat with each other, and they can even take advantage of the Jamboard integration if they want. Now, as the teacher, I can join any of these breakout rooms if I want. So I'm going to go ahead and join breakout number 2 by clicking the join button. That will allow me to go in, check in with the students, help them, chat with them, and I can move between the various rooms. When I am finished with the breakout rooms, the meeting host, which is me, the teacher, has the ability to close the breakout rooms and move everyone back into the primary room. Again, it works just the way that you would expect. Works very effectively. And I think you'll be pleased with how this feature works. Let's take a look at the new poll feature for Google Meet. This is very similar to the discussion question available in Google Classroom. To begin, we're going to click on the Activity tab and select Polls. Now, one of the cool things about this feature is the ability for the meeting host to stage their questions in advance. So I join the meeting early and I can prepare my polls ahead of the start of class. I can create as many as I want, and then I can slowly release those polls to my students during my session. When I'm ready to release a poll, I simply click the launch button. Students will receive a notification that a new poll has been posted. They will click on the activity tab as well. Now they're going to see the same three options, but they don't have the ability to create breakout rooms, polls, or Q&A. They can just interact with what I create for them. Let's go to poll, and here is the question. We're feeling okay about last night's homework, so I will go ahead and vote. Now it's up to the teacher to decide if they want to reveal the class totals to all the students or not. Right now they are hidden. I'll go ahead and reveal those. You can save them for later if you want, and now they'll be visible to the students as well. Once the poll is ended, I can click end, and that will prevent students from voting if they didn't vote, and kind of locks it down as we move on to the next activity. The poll question is really great, and it works even if the chat is disabled. The polling is very similar and closely related to the Q&A tool, which I'd like to show you next. I facilitate a lot of PD sessions through Google Meet, and the Q&A time is always a little tricky because the chat is so filled with comments. You can use the chat for Q&A, but it gets mixed in with all kinds of side conversation, and it's just hard to make sure that you don't miss anything. That is why the new Q&A feature was developed. Let's take a look at the Q&A from a teacher's perspective. We're going to go back to the Activity tab at the top of our screen and go to Q&A. All we need to do from the teacher's perspective is click Turn on Q&A. This allows people to submit questions. Now this is like an official place for questions to be submitted. I'm going to go into the student view. They will have the Activity tab as well. They'll see Q&A. And this is where they can ask a question. So I might say, can you review question 6 from last night's homework? I'm going to go ahead and post that. Now everyone in the meeting will be able to see that question. One of the benefits of the Q&A tool is that the host has some additional moderator controls. So I can look at that question, and if it's a duplicate or if it's off topic, I can go ahead and hide it so that it's not visible to the rest of the class. If it's inappropriate, I can delete it. And if I've answered that question, I can mark it as answered. Now, one of the other cool things that a participant can do is upvote a question. What about question 5? So let me post that. Now, if this student also is interested in a review of question 5, he or she can click the thumbs up button to upvote it. As the meeting host, I can sort these questions by the ones that have received the most votes so that I make sure that I answer the most popular questions first and then work my way down until the end of the class period. The Q&A feature adds a lot of structure to the otherwise unorganized chat. You might want to disable chat and use the poll and Q&A features to organize your virtual lessons. Now, we're almost done. The last feature that we need to take a look at is the attendance reports for Google Meet. All right, we've come to the end. The final feature I want to show you are the new attendance reports that are automatically generated by Google Meet. Now, there are several Chrome extensions that can take attendance during your virtual meetings, but all of them have kind of some bugs and quirks to them. What I like most about the new Meet attendance reports is that they're automatic. You don't have to do anything, turn anything on, it just does it for you. After your meeting ends, the meeting host will receive an email with this information. Let me go ahead and open up a sample for you. There's several things in this email. Let's take a look at the attendance report first. That will be attached as a CSV file. And this will show the name of the participant who was in the meeting, their email address, the duration of their attendance, and when they started or joined and left the meeting. Now that last part is really key. I have not seen any other attendance tools that will actually tell you the start and leaving point of an attendee. So you can tell if someone just joined for 5 minutes and then left, or if they were there the entire time. You'll also get some other data from Google Meet. You'll receive a Google spreadsheet with all the questions that were posted. So if you use the Q&A tool, you'll get a spreadsheet listing all of those. And secondly, you'll also get a spreadsheet containing the results of any poll questions that you posted as well. This is really helpful data. You can reflect on your sessions, hopefully use this information to improve the teaching in your classroom. All right, that does it for me today. I hope you find these 8 new features helpful. Please let me know in a comment which of these 8 features is your favorite. If you have any additional questions, post a comment. I try my very best to answer every single comment on my YouTube channel. Thanks a lot. See you next time.